America is in trouble. Skyrocketing rent, unaffordable healthcare, and relentless work weeks are driving people to their breaking point. But here's the shocking part. A growing number of Americans have found a way out. In Germany. What's behind this quiet exodus? And could you be next? Who's moving to Germany? And why? Did you know that retirees, remote workers, students, and even families are quietly leaving the US behind and heading to Germany? They're not just tourists or thrill seekers. They're staying, building lives, and embracing a way of living that feels out of reach back home. But why? For many, the answer comes down to a mix of struggles they're escaping and opportunities they're choosing. Rising healthcare costs, a punishing work culture, and the simple dream of something better are just a few of the reasons driving this shift. Let's start with retirees. In the US, retirement can feel like standing on a financial tightrope. Healthcare costs alone can eat up a major chunk of savings. And even with Medicare, out-of-pocket expenses can spiral quickly during unexpected medical emergencies. Imagine paying $3,000 or $4,000 monthly for essential medications or specialized care. On the flip side, retirees moving to Germany often find that healthcare alone makes life significantly less stressful. One couple, both in their early 60s, shared how they had dreaded retirement in Florida, where their health insurance premiums kept climbing. Now, in Germany, they pay far less as part of the country's public healthcare system. And that's left them with much more breathing room to enjoy their golden years. Then, there are remote workers. With the rise of remote jobs, a new level of freedom has emerged. But many Americans are realizing they no longer have to stay rooted in high-cost cities like San Francisco or New York just to advance their careers. Germany's relatively affordable living costs make for an attractive alternative. In Berlin, for instance, rent for an apartment hovers at a fraction of what you'd pay in many major US metropolitan areas. A software engineer who recently made the leap said that their rent in the US had been over $2,500 a month for a one-bedroom in Seattle. Now in Germany, they pay significantly less for a similar space and use the extra savings to travel across Europe. Life's not just about working hard, it's about actually enjoying your downtime. And Germany makes that easier to do. Speaking of younger crowds, students are a big part of this shift too. If you've ever looked into the price of higher education in the US, you know it's no secret that student debt can weigh people down for decades. But in Germany, many universities offer tuition-free education, not just for citizens, but for many international students as well. Sure, there are fees for things like housing, or semester passes for public transportation, but these costs pale in comparison to tuition in the US. It's a path that draws thousands of students every year, including Americans looking to escape loan burdens while still getting a world-class education. Now, let's not forget families. Raising kids in the US has become increasingly expensive, from childcare costs to housing prices that seem to climb every year. For some families, the choice to move to Germany is about offering their children a more stable foundation. Germany's family-friendly policies, like generous parental leave and affordable daycare options, create a society where balancing work and home life feels more manageable. One American mom described how, after having her second child, returning to her full-time job back in Michigan, felt impossible due to daycare costs that exceeded her income. Now living in Stuttgart, she and her husband both work half-time and spend the rest of their time bonding with their kids, something that seemed unachievable in the States. So why are these groups feeling so pushed to consider life abroad? A lot of it boils down to issues that feel almost baked into life in the US. Rising costs of living, especially housing, play a huge role. According to recent statistics, the median rent in the US, Bielstein, has skyrocketed to $2,000 a month. Compare that to Germany, where rents are considerably lower in most cities, even as wages remain competitive. Add in social factors like the increasing demands of 9-to-5 jobs that often spill well past 5 o'clock, and it's clear why burnout has become a buzzword for an entire generation of workers. But here's the bigger appeal. Germany doesn't just offer a way to escape financial strain. It's a place where people say they feel like they can actually thrive. For retirees, it may mean rediscovering the joy of hobbies without worrying about unexpected medical bills. For remote workers, it might look like flexible schedules that allow for quiet mornings in a cafe or weekend trips to historic castles. Families see it as a chance to live in communities that prioritize education, well-being, and security, where kids can play outdoors without constant worry. What's striking about these stories is that financial savings, while undeniably important, aren't the whole story. People moving to Germany talk about a cultural shift, a sense of balance they can't find at home. It's about the simplicity of never having to choose between quality healthcare and groceries, or the peace that comes with knowing your landlord can't raise the rent by 30% overnight. Germany offers more than just a break from American troubles. It provides a sense of stability many didn't realize they'd been craving. And while healthcare often takes center stage in these conversations, it's far from the only factor. The way Germany approaches universal coverage reflects deeper societal values that keep bringing new expats through its borders. So, what exactly is it about Germany's healthcare system that sets it apart from the rest? Let's take a closer look. The healthcare advantage, a game changer. What if you could have access to affordable, universal healthcare without worrying about staggering bills arriving in your mailbox? For many Americans moving to Germany, this isn't just a fantasy. It's their everyday reality. Germany's healthcare system works differently, and that difference is often life-changing. It's universal, meaning it covers everyone, and it's designed to be sustainable through contributions from employers and employees. Whether you're earning a high salary or scraping by, you're part of a system that prioritizes care over profit. And that stands in sharp contrast to the US, where medical expenses can feel like a financial minefield. Think about this. In the US, having a baby can cost $10,000, or significantly more, depending on where you live and whether you have insurance. Even with coverage, there's often a flood of additional expenses. Now compare that to Germany, where childbirth is generally covered, including necessary follow-up care. It's not just the big moments either. Everyday healthcare, from prescription medications to preventive visits, is so much more manageable. In Germany, for instance, the maximum copay for prescriptions is around $10 to $11, even for medications that treat chronic conditions. Meanwhile, in the US, someone with type 1 diabetes might spend hundreds monthly on insulin alone. Courtney Reich, an American expat diagnosed with diabetes, described her relief after moving to Germany. Her insulin and the pump she needed were fully covered, with absolutely no out-of-pocket costs. Stories like hers aren't just about lowering expenses. They reveal how much the structure and intent of Germany's healthcare system can differ. It's not hard to see why US healthcare feels like a financial trap. Insurance is often tied to employment, creating massive challenges for freelancers, the unemployed, or part-time workers. Even having insurance doesn't guarantee security. Deductibles and co-pays can quickly add up. And then there's the looming fear of surprise medical bills, charges for out-of-network care you didn't even know you'd used. Germany, on the other hand, works under what's known as a solidarity-based system. This fundamentally means that those who can contribute more to the system do. So those who have less can still access top-tier care. Whether you're a janitor or a CEO, you'll receive the same quality of medical attention. That concept alone can feel almost radical to Americans who've grown up in a system where access to excellent care is often dictated by how much you can pay. This approach doesn't just manage costs, it actively reshapes how people experience their healthcare. Helene and Michael Sula, two American expats now living in Germany, noticed the difference firsthand when Helene needed knee surgery. In the US, this kind of procedure can run up to $14,000, not including follow-ups. And that's if everything goes smoothly. In Germany, their total cost was about $2,000, an amount that covered everything from diagnosis to recovery. Helene emphasized that the process felt seamless, thanks to their health insurance, and that quality wasn't sacrificed because of affordability. This balance of access and quality is why Germany's system works so well. It creates confidence that whether you need routine care or something bigger, you're covered. For expats living in Germany, the emotional impact of such a system is enormous. The relief comes not just from lower bills, but also from a sense of stability. If you're navigating a chronic illness or raising a family, the predictable costs and benefits of the German system mean you're not constantly worrying about how you'll pay for care. This has ripple effects on mental health too. Knowing you won't have to make devastating choices between health and financial well-being can free up an incredible amount of emotional space. You might not even realize how much stress you've been carrying until it's gone. But it's not just cost or access to treatment that makes the German system stand out. It's how it prioritizes patient rights and empowerment. Patients have the right to detailed information about their conditions and treatment options, making the process feel collaborative rather than overwhelming. This focus on clarity and inclusion ensures people feel involved in decisions about their health, not just shuffled through a system. Compare this to the US, where navigating insurance approvals and hidden fees can make even a basic doctor's appointment feel like running a maze. In Germany, the transparency and simplicity of interaction play a large part in how expats adjust so positively. Statistics back up this stark difference between the two systems. Germany spends significantly less on healthcare as a percentage of GDP compared to the US, yet delivers better outcomes in key areas. Life expectancy rates are solid, infant mortality is lower, and most importantly, accessing care doesn't come with the same financial barriers. For many Americans, these contrasts challenge assumptions about what a healthcare system needs to look like. It signals that prioritizing public health over corporate profits is not only possible, but sustainable, and it can completely change what day-to-day living feels like. All of that said, healthcare is just one piece of the puzzle. Americans moving to Germany aren't just drawn to the idea of saving thousands on medical expenses. They're tapping into a whole lifestyle that keeps them coming back for more. Whether it's shorter work weeks or expanded vacations, Germany's focus on quality of life is another huge reason why expats choose to stay. So what's on the other side of that coin? Let's talk about how Germany's incredible work-life balance changes not just how you work, but how you live. The allure of a better work-life balance. Why do so many Americans feel exhausted, overworked, or stuck in a never-ending cycle of meetings and late nights? For some, the answer has been found thousands of miles away in Germany, where the phrase "we work to live" captures a completely different approach to work-life balance. It's not just about shorter hours or more vacation time. It's a reflection of a culture that values living well over working endlessly. And for Americans used to the grind, this shift can be profound. Let's start with the basics. Full-time workers in Germany enjoy a legally mandated minimum of 6 weeks of paid vacation per year. That's right, 6 full weeks, guaranteed by law. In comparison, the United States has no federally mandated paid vacation, meaning many people rely on the generosity of their employers. And even then, the average worker in the US typically gets just 2 weeks a year, and that's assuming they even feel comfortable taking them. Far too often, there's this unwritten pressure to skip vacations entirely, or only take a day or two off to avoid falling behind. In Germany, though, vacation isn't seen as a luxury or something to earn. It's simply part of a balanced life, and it's treated as essential to staying productive and mentally healthy. But it's not just the generous vacation policies that stand out. Work weeks themselves are noticeably shorter. Germans work about 34 to 35 hours per week on average, compared to the US, where the average is closer to 40 hours, with many people logging even more. These shorter work hours in Germany don't come with a sacrifice in productivity. In fact, research consistently shows that Germans remain among the most efficient workers in the world. Instead of spending long hours in the office or on Zoom calls, employees in Germany tend to have more focused workdays with fewer time-wasting meetings. Some American expats have described this cultural difference as refreshing. A remote worker who moved to Hamburg said the shift to a structured, efficient 35-hour work week allowed them to focus better during working hours and fully enjoy their free time afterward. Another critical difference is flexibility. German companies often offer parents and caregiver schedules that allow them to split their time between work and family in ways that feel reasonable. Picture a household where both parents work but are still able to pick the kids up from school, help with homework, and have dinner as a family without sacrificing their income or career progress. Stories like that are part of why families have such an easier time finding balance in Germany. One American mom described how her husband's flexible hours let him work a condensed schedule, leaving Fridays free for family outings, something that felt impossible when they lived in the United States. Even outside of a familial setting, this emphasis on work-life balance gives people more freedom to experience life. Imagine having evenings wide open to meet friends, explore new hobbies, or simply relax without feeling wiped out. This cultural mindset is a striking contrast to what many Americans experience, where long hours often leave people drained, using weekends just to recover. And ironically, this grind doesn't always translate to better results. Data comparing the two countries highlights that despite working fewer hours, workers in Germany still achieve similar or even better productivity than their American counterparts. It's a reminder that working more doesn't necessarily mean working smarter. What's more, Germany doesn't just hand out time off. It fosters an environment that encourages people to use it. Offices shut down more fully during holidays, and there's no expectation of burning through emails while you're technically on a break. A 2023 report revealed just how many Americans feel unable to disconnect, with nearly 70% admitting to checking work messages while on vacation. That's an experience many expats say fades away after settling into Germany's work culture. One American who moved to Berlin explained how refreshing it was to take a real 3-week vacation without guilt, noting how coworkers never texted or called them during their time away. "It's just not done here," they said. "When you're off, you're off." And it's not just about how much time people take, it's about what they do with it. With evenings free and weekends rarely dominated by errands or unfinished work tasks, people have time to embrace the rich cultural experiences Germany offers. Whether it's attending a neighborhood festival, exploring vineyards, or simply gathering for a long, relaxed meal with friends and family, life feels less rushed. That slower pace allows for deeper connections and a better sense of community, echoing Germany's broader cultural values. If there's one thing expats consistently comment on, it's the sense of freedom that comes with these changes. Free time isn't just a perk, it transforms how you live. People have the energy to travel within Europe, take up new hobbies, or enjoy daily rituals like meeting friends for coffee at a local bakery. For Americans used to juggling personal and professional obligations with little room to pause, this kind of breathing space feels revolutionary. But the appeal of Germany's work-life balance goes even deeper. It's not just about shorter hours or mandated vacations. It's about the societal recognition that people matter beyond their productivity. This prioritization of well-being sends a message that life outside of work isn't just important, it's essential. And when people feel valued in this way, it's no surprise they rediscover joy and purpose in the everyday. Of course, rediscovering joy comes easier in a place rich with tradition, art, and history that's accessible to everyone. Germany's cultural offerings and affordability make it an irresistible place to call home. Coming up, let's see how these experiences add even more depth to life abroad. Culture, community, and cost of living. Imagine living in a place where every region feels like its own world, filled with unique customs, festivals, and traditions, and where the cost of enjoying it all doesn't break the bank. For many Americans moving to Germany, this combination of cultural richness and affordability is impossible to ignore. Germany offers a lifestyle where the extraordinary feels accessible, even for those on a budget. Take Bavaria, for example. Known for its rolling hills, alpine villages, and iconic events like Oktoberfest, it's a place where tradition blends seamlessly with modern life. Festivals here extend far beyond beer gardens, although those are definitely part of the charm. Bavarian holidays celebrate everything from farming culture to regional crafts, giving those who live there a deep connection to the past. But Bavaria is just one small slice of Germany. Each region offers something different, from the Rhine's stunning vineyards to the bustling creativity of Berlin. It's a diversity that allows expats to find an environment that matches their personality. Love history? Cities like Heidelberg and Nuremberg feature cobblestone streets and medieval architecture. Prefer something fast-paced? Hamburg's lively ports and Berlin's contemporary art scene await. This regional variety is why so many Americans feel not only welcome but also excited to discover and engage with a way of life that constantly offers something new. For those used to U.S. cities, where cultural experiences can be exciting but also expensive, Germany offers a refreshing change. Public concerts or museum passes are often inexpensive, and festivals, both big and small, are regularly hosted in towns across the country. Even just walking through a historic town square can feel like stepping into a different era. And here's the thing, access to these experiences doesn't come with the same financial weight that it often does in the US. Public transportation, for example, makes it easy and affordable to explore. A monthly transit pass in Germany may cost 60 to 100 euros, giving you access to buses, trams, and trains across extensive networks. For Americans, where public transit systems are limited and costs for similar services in cities like New York can reach or exceed $100, this ease of movement can be a game changer. Housing is another key area where Germany outshines its American counterpart. Although cities like Munich have higher rents compared to other German towns, they're still significantly lower than what you'd regularly pay in major US metropolitan areas. A one-bedroom apartment in Munich, for example, might cost between 600 and 1,000 euros per month. Compare this to New York City, where similar apartments average well over $1,600 monthly. This affordability leaves more room in the budget for other experiences, whether that's dining out, traveling, or simply maintaining a savings account. For expats adjusting to a new country, that financial breathing space makes everything feel more possible. Even dining out, often a splurge in the US, is more approachable in Germany. Fancy meals certainly exist, but you don't have to spend much to enjoy the country's rich culinary scene. From grabbing a quick doner kebab for under 10 euros to savoring classic bratwurst or schnitzel, eating well doesn't mean overspending. And for special occasions, a meal for two at a sit-down restaurant might cost around 65 euros, a price considered a small indulgence rather than a financial setback. Daily necessities are also more affordable, making the overall cost of living easier to manage. Grocery prices, for instance, are often lower than in the US. A loaf of bread might cost about €1.91, and a liter of milk comes in around €1.10. These differences might seem small individually, but over time, they add up, making it easier to budget and live comfortably. For families, this affordability can be especially significant, offering stability while covering the kind of costs, schooling, transportation, housing, that can feel overwhelming back home. Germany's cultural infrastructure also emphasizes preservation and accessibility. With over 46 World Heritage sites and countless museums, it's easy to immerse yourself in both history and art. What's especially striking is the intentional effort to keep these experiences open to the public. Programs and events frequently receive government funding, reducing costs for attendees and promoting wide access. Take Chemnitz, selected as the European Capital of Culture for 2025. Events and initiatives tied to this designation give the city the chance to showcase its creativity on a global stage, all while staying affordable for residents and visitors alike. This highlights a broader commitment in Germany. Culture should be a shared experience, not reserved for the elite. And that sense of inclusion extends to communities, where expats often find more than just a new home. They discover a new support system. In cities with large international populations, integration tends to come naturally. The Turkish community, for instance, plays an especially prominent role, creating spaces where newcomers feel connected through shared experiences and mutual support. Expats in Germany frequently mention how much easier it is to navigate their new lives when they're part of a welcoming, diverse community that helps them adjust and build relationships. Beyond the practicality of affordability, there's a deeper payoff in all of this. Expats say they feel genuinely at home in Germany. Exploring local festivals, connecting with neighbors, and participating in traditions gives life depth and meaning that doesn't always feel attainable in the US, where cost and time constraints often get in the way. Germany's balance of affordability and culture creates a lifestyle where more feels possible, where people live not just to work but to grow, explore, and connect. But this trend of moving abroad isn't only about individuals. It reflects something broader, a shift in how people imagine the possibilities of life itself. So, what does this quiet exodus mean in the bigger picture? Let's explore why Americans leaving for Germany might reveal more than just personal preferences. What this quiet trend says about the future. Could this quiet migration to Germany be saying something bigger about life in the United States? For years, the idea of the American dream promised prosperity through hard work and upward mobility. But for many, that vision now feels out of reach. Rising costs, fragile economic prospects, and a growing sense of disconnection have left people searching for alternatives. Germany, with its stability and focus on well-being, seems to offer just that. But this trend isn't just about individuals packing up and leaving. It taps into deeper issues shaping modern life. Take a look at recent data from the World Happiness Report ranking. The US slipped to 23rd globally in 2025, its lowest point since the rankings began in 2012. For context, this index considers things like income, community support, life expectancy, and freedom, benchmarks where the US is struggling. Economic inequality continues to rise, and the middle class, once considered the backbone of American prosperity, is shrinking fast. Add in wage stagnation and a housing affordability crisis, and it's no surprise that the financial security many associate with the American dream is slipping further out of reach. The decision for some Americans to move abroad reflects these growing challenges. Housing affordability stands out as one of the biggest factors. Even middle-income earners in cities like Los Angeles or Austin find it harder than ever to afford homes, with starter houses routinely priced above $300,000. Almost half of renters nationally spend more than 30% of their income on housing. Compare this with Germany, where strict rental regulations keep prices stable and prevent the kind of sudden spikes that have become common in the US. For Americans who have struggled in volatile markets, the predictable and controlled approach to housing in Germany feels like a safety net. Economic pressures aren't the only thing pushing people to reconsider their options. In even more personal ways, disillusionment runs deep. Former Surgeon General Vivek Murthy noted a startling decline in trust among Americans, falling from 45% in 1972 to just 30% in 2016. This erosion of mutual trust has contributed to a growing sense of social fragmentation. When the neighborhood bonds and community support systems weaken, people often feel unmoored. Add to this the rising rates of depression and anxiety across the US, and it paints a picture of a society where isolation is increasingly the norm. By contrast, Germany places great emphasis on community. Many expats describe feeling more connected to their neighbors and communities after making the move, thanks to traditions like local festivals, shared public spaces, and even simple acts like stopping to chat at farmers markets. Mental health, too, plays a huge role in why some are drawn overseas. The fast pace of American work culture often pairs with inadequate support for mental wellness. Resources like therapy can be expensive, with insurance often covering limited sessions or creating hoops to jump through for care. In Germany, where healthcare includes mental health services as part of its universal coverage, people find it easier to seek help without stigma or financial hurdles. Some expats credit this access not just with improving their mental health, but also with giving them the sense that their well-being is a societal priority and not just their own problem. Of course, it's not just the struggles in the US that push people toward Germany. It's what they find when they arrive. Stability remains one of Germany's strongest themes. Structured social systems, slower but deliberate economic growth, established healthcare practices, and strong labor protections create a steady environment. This stability isn't particularly flashy, but it offers a sense of security and predictability that many Americans say they've stepped away from back home. Then there's the overwhelming appeal of simplicity. Life in Germany encourages people to slow down. With more access to robust public transportation networks and regulations that limit excessive consumerism, like Sunday closures for most shops, there's a cultural emphasis on minimalism and practicality. It's not uncommon to read an expat's story about how they've learned to ride their bike to work, shop at local markets, or simply spend an afternoon unwinding in the park. This contrasts sharply with the sprawling suburban car culture dominant in the US, where just commuting can drain hours from one's week and add to the mental clutter of life. Looking at the big picture, the growing trend of Americans moving to Germany challenges long-standing ideas of home and national identity. For years, the idea was that people would leave countries like Germany or elsewhere for the promise of a better life in the US. Now, the movement is reversing, suggesting a shift in what people aspire to. What Americans find when they arrive in Germany isn't necessarily a solution to all problems, but it's proof that there are different paths to a fulfilling life. For many, the chance to experience societal balance, financial security, and a slower pace is enough to make the leap worth it. This migration may only be the beginning. As economic struggles and social challenges persist across the United States, it's possible that more people will look beyond its borders, not just to Germany, but to other countries offering alternatives. The quiet rise in Americans choosing expat life could signal a broader rethinking of what happiness and success look like in a modern world. Germany may not just be a destination, it may also be a blueprint for how we start redefining priorities, both personal and societal. The real question now, what does this mean for you? As Americans rethink their own idea of the good life, perhaps the stories of these expats hold lessons that anyone can apply, whether they choose to stay or go. Germany's model challenges how we think about life's priorities. By focusing on affordable healthcare, balanced work weeks, and rich cultural experiences, it offers something rare: a society built to support living well. For Americans, this shift away from financial strain and burnout isn't just about escaping. It's about reimagining what matters most. Could this trend lead to a broader rethinking of success and happiness back home? As Americans look abroad for answers, perhaps Germany's approach can inspire us to value stability, community, and balance in new ways. What would you prioritize if given the chance to start fresh, even without moving abroad?